If you believe that the history we've been taught are true, you are misinformed. The distortion of history is much more easily achieved than most people realize. All you have to do is keep repeating lies through whitewash history books and whitewash movies about the history, and before long, everyone will believe that false version of history. This is the case regarding the history we've been taught. Around the same time that John D. Rockefeller seized the US media, he also took over the education system. He then ordered his army of white propagandists to create a whitewashed version of history that makes Caucasians appear more significant throughout history than they truly in fact were. They achieved this by distorting many historical facts to falsely place Caucasians at the center of all significant historical facts. They also turned many historical black figures white, and they falsely give their racial group credit for most of achievements and inventions made by black people. Rockefeller created a false whitewashed version of history and then mandated that only that version of history be taught, thus inverting reality. The education we've been taught has been whitewashed at the expense of we Africans. Case, point, and proof. The white educational system teaches us that the first scholars in history were the Greeks. However, all of Greece's first scholars received their formal education in Africa's ancient Egypt. The white educational system also teaches us that the father of medicine was a Greek named Hippocrates. However, the true father of medicine was an African named Imhotep. Imhotep was practicing medicine and writing on the subject for more than 2,000 years, long before Hippocrates was even born. And although the geographical location of Egypt is located in Africa, and although radiocarbon date testings have scientifically proven that the ancient kingdom was built by Africans many thousands of years, long before the arrival of the first Europeans and the first Arabs during the 7th century, and although hair sample testings, melanin concentration skin testings, bone density testings, and DNA testings have all scientifically proven that Africa's ancient Egyptians were in fact Africans, it's been ignored. In 2012, between 2012 and 2013, DNA analysis conducted on several Egyptian mummies by DNA Tribes, an American company that specializes in DNA testings, scientifically proven that Africa's ancient Egyptians were in fact Africans. Their DNA matches current-day sub-Saharan Africans. However, white historians and white movie makers nonetheless ignores these noted facts and instead ridiculously depicts Africa's ancient Egyptians as being Europeans. White historians have stolen the glorious history of Africa's ancient Egypt and have falsely portrayed it as being their history, and they've manipulated the entire world to see things their way. As I've stated earlier, just keep repeating lies through whitewash history books and whitewash movies regarding historical events, and before long, everyone will accept that false version. This whitewashed version of history also falsely give Caucasians credits for most inventions made by black people. Case, point, and proof. White historians miseducate us to believe that Thomas Edison is responsible for lighting up the entire world. But in reality, after Edison patented his light bulb, no companies purchased it, nor mass produced it, because it was deemed not efficient enough. It lit very dimly, lasted only a few minutes. The inventor whose light bulb was purchased, mass produced, and it was spread throughout the world was actually invented by an African American named Lewis Latimer. He sold the patent to the U.S. Electric Company in 1881. He was also dispatched around the world to oversee its installation. Therefore, in reality, it was actually a black man that lit up the entire world. Latimer literally wrote the book on electric lighting. He holds a patent for the first electric lamp. And he's also the man who drew up the patterns for Graham Bell's telephone. But this is not in our history books because it's been whitewashed. The white society also miseducates us to believe that Henry Ford invented the first automobile. It was actually an African-American inventor and carriage company entrepreneur named Charles Richard Patterson that built the first automobile. The C.R. Patterson and Sons Company started out as a carriage building firm in 1873. In the 1900s, Patterson and his sons converted the company from a carriage business into an automobile manufacturer. It was done in the early 1900s. The first car was released in 1905 and it sold for $850. It was a 4-cylinder Continental engine. C.R. Patterson began making automobiles before Henry Ford, and his automobiles were considered much more sophisticated. In 1939, C.R. Patterson and Sons were forced out of business by Henry Ford. White historians have also miseducated us to believe that the first aircraft was built by the Wright brothers. But the truth is that before the Wright brothers patented their aircraft in 1909, a black man named Charles F. Page had already invented, patterned, and flown an aircraft 3 years earlier in 1906. And although the Wright brothers aircraft was clearly inspired by Charles F. Page aircraft, Charles F. Page is not mentioned in our history books because the history book has been whitewashed to give the inventions made by black people to white people. Through their whitewashed version of history, the white society has miseducated millions to believe that black people are the leeches of the society that have greatly benefited from the many inventions made by Caucasians. But the truth is the exact opposite from what they've miseducated millions to believe. The hidden fact is that after slavery was abolished in the U.S. in 1865, beginning from 1870 to 1940, African Americans filed 726 invention patents to the U.S. Patent Office. For a people to go directly from being enslaved to then producing so much inventions in such a short time span is astounding. Moreover, these numbers produced by African Americans more than double those patents submitted by Caucasians during the same time frame. And in spite of the fact that African Americans are made up less than 3% of the population. The truth of the matter is that in spite of cultural traumas wrought by the injustice of white racism and slavery, most inventions that have revolutionized the world were in fact either invented by black people or directly inspired by black people. It is a fact they keep out of your whitewashed history books. Without black people, there would exist no internet, no cell phones. We wouldn't have cameras and microphones on our cell phones. We wouldn't have the accurate weather forecasting system. We wouldn't have the cataract laser removal scope. There'd be no emails, no GPS, no hearing aids, no touch-tone phones, no caller ID, no home surveillance security systems, no motorized vehicles, no steam engines, no traffic light, no working light bulbs, no elevators, therefore no skyscrapers. There'll be no air conditions, no modern PC, no 3D movies, no central heating, no refrigerators, no refrigerated trucks, no helicopters, no washing machine, no dry cleaners, no lawnmowers, no dryers, no blood banks, no fiber optics, no nanotechnology, no doorknobs, no female sanitary pad, no bathroom tissue holders, no pencil sharpeners, etc., etc. The technological advancements made by black people throughout history have been extraordinary, but it's hidden. The hidden reality is that black people have enriched the lives of every person on this planet through our many inventions. This fact has been deliberately kept from the public through the white society's monopoly over information. They feed disinformation into a society that aids them in maintaining their social dominance. The white society sits upon a throne of white exalting and black marginalizing lies. White historians justify this unethical practice as being merely the spoils of war. thus saying that it's customary for conquerors to rewrite history to favor themselves. However, the true reason it's being done is to give themselves a false version of history that endorses their current position of social dominance. You see, according to white social scientists, in order for a dominant group to maintain its position of social dominance, the education taught within a society, particularly the history, must endorse the dominant group's position of social dominance. The white society's true history does not endorse their current position of social dominance because they've got it through crime and killing and stealing. You know, and they couldn't teach that we Africans were building pyramids while they were still living in caves. And they couldn't teach that most inventions that revolutionized the world were coming from us. They also couldn't teach that we civilized and even introduced the daily bag to Caucasians and still maintain their position of social dominance over us. Therefore, this whitewashing of history provides them with a false version of history that endorses their position of social dominance. People function based upon the history that's taught within a society. And the history that we are taught has been whitewashed to create and sustain false assumptions within a society that aids the white society in maintaining their social dominance. This is our hidden reality. It's time to wake up to the truth. This false version of history gives the white society a false historical platform that endorses their current position of social dominance. In order to understand the real world, to understand what the matrix is, you have to learn social science, the social science that are used for steering society. It's time to wake up to our reality. One love and peace.